On Christmas Eve, Fritz and Mary were looking forward to unpacking their presents. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. It was their uncle with a bunch of gifts in his hands. The children were very happy to see him. Then they began to unpack the presents. Mary got fancy dolls, toy dishes, and a beautiful silk dress. Fritz also got what he wanted, a magnificent horse and a mouse king. Mary noticed that there was a soldier under the tree. It was the Nutcracker, designed to neatly crunch hard nuts. The girl really liked it. But Fritz said it was his gift and tried to take it from his sister. The children stretched the Nutcracker so far that they tore his arm off. The broken toy became unnecessary for the boy. Mary was very upset and burst into tears. But my uncle was able to repair the soldier. The girl was happy and hugged him gently. The day was very busy, so she soon got tired and fell asleep right under the tree. During her sleep, Mary heard strange sounds. They were like mouse fuss. The girl opened her eyes. The objects in the house seemed much larger than they were. And the tree under which she fell asleep became absolutely gigantic. Mary realized that it was not the objects that had increased, but that she had decreased. Suddenly, the Mouse King with his army appeared before the eyes of the astonished girl. Mary was very frightened and wanted to run away. But the giant mice stopped her. And then a miracle happened. The Nutcracker jumped to his feet and grabbed the girl. They instantly climbed the tree to the bookshelf, and along it got to Fritz's toys. There was a whole collection of tin soldiers. The Nutcracker called for help. The soldiers immediately jumped to their feet and ran after him. The Nutcracker took command of the army, and the soldiers began to fight the army of the Mouse King. The battle between toys and mice was fierce. But, unfortunately, there were too many mice, and the Nutcracker army began to suffer defeat. Mary saw this and ran out of her hiding place. She threw her shoe at the Mouse King and hit him right in the head, and he fell to the floor unconscious. The rest of the mice realized that the battle was lost and ran away in all directions. Mary ran to the Nutcracker, but he lay unconscious, as he was badly wounded by the Mouse King. The girl thought that he was dead and began to cry bitterly. And suddenly, a beautiful fairy appeared behind Mary. She decided to help the girl. With a wave of her wand, she revived the Nutcracker. With a second wave of her wand, the fairy turned the soldier into a handsome prince. Mary and Nutcracker looked at each other with loving eyes and could not take their eyes off. With a wave of her wand for the third time, the fairy took the couple in love to the kingdom of sweets. The trees there were made of candy, and the flowers were made of marmalade. It was a wonderful place. Mary closed her eyes for a second in pleasure. And suddenly, she heard the voice of her mother, who called her by name. Opening her eyes, the girl saw her mother, who looked at her in confusion. Mary also could not understand what was happening. The girl told about her wonderful journey, but her mother only smiled sweetly. Then Mary saw the pewter Nutcracker in her arms. And then she realized that she had slept under the tree all night, and everything that happened to her was just a vivid dream. A few years later, the nephew of their godfather came to visit Mary and Fritz. As soon as he entered the house, the girl almost fell to the floor in surprise. The boy looked like the Nutcracker as 2 drops of water. He also liked Mary at first sight. After some time, they got married, and lived no worse than in the magic kingdom of sweets. Girl Mary lived in the Kansas steppe with her puppy Toto, Uncle Henry, and Aunt Em. In these places, hurricanes were common, and the family now and then hid in the cellar from the raging elements. One such day, Uncle Henry noticed an impending storm. He opened the cellar hatch and then called Mary and Aunt to hide. At that moment, the frightened Toto jumped off Mary's arms and hid under the bed. When the girl finally caught the puppy, the wind howled and the little house shook. The house turned around its axis several times, and then began to slowly rise into the air, like a balloon. Soon the house landed, and he and Toto went out into the street. A green lawn with fruit trees spread around, and amazing flowers grew everywhere. This is how Mary ended up in the magical land of Oz. While admiring the wonders of nature, the girl did not notice how very strange people in hats approached her. They were adults, but no larger than little Mary. Chief among them was an old woman dressed all in white. She approached Mary and thanked her for helping the girl defeat the evil sorceress. Mary was very surprised. Then the old woman pointed to the house, from under which protruded feet in silver shoes. At that moment, the legs disintegrated into hundreds of small particles and disappeared, leaving only their shoes. Mary was even more frightened, because she really wanted to go home. But as it turned out, neither the old woman in white, nor other strange people in caps knew how to help the girl. They advised Mary to put on the silver shoes of the witch, go to the Emerald City, and find the powerful wizard Oz there. Only he could help Mary return home. There was one yellow brick road leading to the Emerald City. Mary set off along it. The first she met was a cornfield guarded by a scarecrow. Instead of a head, he had a pouch filled with straw, and his mouth and nose were painted with paint. The scarecrow turned out to be alive, and his name was Scarecrow. He told Mary that he also wants to get to the Wizard Oz to ask him for brains. The girl took pity on the scarecrow, helped him climb over the fence, and they hit the road. The yellow brick road led Mary and the scarecrow into the forest. Suddenly they heard someone moan. A human figure gleamed in the thicket of the forest. It was the Tin Woodman. Its parts were so rusted that he could not move an arm or a leg. Then, in a hut nearby, Mary found an oil can. She lubricated the woodman's parts, and he began to move again. It turned out that the woodcutter had long dreamed of getting to the Wizard Oz to get a real heart. So together they continued their journey to the Emerald City. A yellow brick trail led friends through a dense forest. Suddenly a lion jumped out of the thicket onto the road. As soon as he swung his paws at the scarecrow, he heard Toto barking and was very frightened. The lion told Mary that he was born shy and therefore does not mind going to the Wizard Oz and asking for real courage. When the friends finally reached the Emerald City, the Great Oz agreed to fulfill their wishes, but set one condition. He asked to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. And my friends had to agree. Under cover of the night, Mary, the scarecrow, the lion, and the woodcutter made their way to the Witch of the West. She was waiting for them, and therefore sent flying monkeys to the friends. They threw the Tin Woodman off the cliff, poured all the straw out of the scarecrow, and captured Mary and Leo. When Mary was brought to the Witch of the West, driven to despair, she poured water on the witch. To the girl's surprise, the old woman began to melt, and soon only a muddy puddle remained of her. When the friends returned to the Emerald City and demanded that the wizard fulfill their wishes, it turned out that Oz was not a wizard at all, but a real deceiver. However, he tried to fulfill the requests of his friends. So, Oz stuffed the scarecrow's head with sawdust, from which he experienced a surge of wisdom. I inserted a scarlet silk heart into the Tin Woodman's chest. And he gave the cowardly lion a potion to drink, which made the king of beasts feel brave. Seeing Mary's silver shoes, Oz laughed. After all, the shoes were magic, and all this time they could carry the girl home. Mary said goodbye to her new friends, tapped her heel 3 times, and ended up at home with Toto. But the silver shoes were lost on the road.